live. Okay. Well, do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire fun and frivolity show. If you want to jump in this evening and you want to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all of that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show this evening can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter. We missed him last month. But he is back and better than ever. Not because of him, because of me. We had to make room for an origin story, if you might recall. But we are back and better than ever with our pal and the pitmaster of Killer Hogs, creator of How to Barbecue Right, Malcom Reed. Yes. Not only that, after a triumphant return last month to the show, he's back to team up with Malcom in this segment. Heath Riles. Heath Riles Barbecue, yes. So the three of us are going to be talking about the whole situation that's going on in Memphis, the impending competitions, plural, now in 2024. We'll get a little history of each of them from Memphis and May. We'll talk about this new startup that we talked about last week with Carrie Bringle, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So look forward to a mashup, if you will, with Heath Riles and Malcom Reed coming up here in about 10 minutes from now. And then 35 past the first hour, a quarterly segment guest from the creator of Another Pint Please, Mike Lang, joins the show once again as we get ready to close out 2023. So we will talk to him about holiday meals that are coming up. Hanukah starts day after tomorrow. Of course, we have Christmas and all the other stuff. We'll talk about main dish proteins. We will also talk about side dishes, and then we will get into some gift-giving ideas, and we'll also talk about 2023 trends that he liked, trends that he didn't like. Then we might look into the first half of next year and pontificate on upcoming trends that we either see starting to peak now or creep now and might peak into the first half of next year, or ones maybe we don't even have any idea they're going to be happening. He just feels good about something, and he's going to let it rip here on the show and be on tape, and we'll go back and evaluate after the fact. And that'll bring a close to the first hour. Then we'll move to the second hour. We will find an origin story with one of the barbecue icons in the industry, Ed Maurin. You might know him as Fast Eddie. You might know him as the guy that makes the FE cooker. You might not know he's the guy that invented the FE cooker or the FE 100. A lot of teams through the many decades have used the FE in one form or fashion. A lot of teams that don't use pellet cookers now used the FE cooker. A lot of teams that say they don't use pellet cookers now probably have an FE cooker hidden away. It was a legendary cooker for, let me rephrase that. It is still a legendary cooker, no doubt about it. Certainly, offset pits have recaptured the attention of a lot of competition cooks. But nevertheless, we will get a beginning, middle, and current of where Fast Eddie is. We'll track his barbecue journey and life in general. And there's a lot of things about Eddie that you probably don't even know about. We'll find out about those in the second hour. So that's how the show is laying out. Malcom Reed, Heath Riles coming up here shortly. Mike Lang after them, second hour. An origin story with Ed Maurin. By the way, Ed was inducted into the 2023 Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame in October this past year. So chasing down all those inductees to get their origin stories as we typically do. By the way, I think Heath Riles is in the green room here. Heath, I'm going to send you a different link to use because of how I have things set up here currently. So I'm going to send this off to you directly and close out of whatever you're in and then use this one that I'm sending you. That's just from a production standpoint for me. But same way to log in, all that other stuff. So don't forget you can follow me socially, Instagram, X, TikTok, Snapchat. I believe we're also live this evening. Actually, we're not also, but we have taken Twitch out of the mix this week. We have added a live stream in X. So Instagram, X, TikTok, Snapchat at BBQ Central Show is the handle, by the way. I'm getting more and more posty on the Snapper Snaps. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms, Facebook and X, which is /BBQ Central Show or at BBQ Central Show. We're also live on YouTube, which can be found at youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. We have a new YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody. The bigger ongoing news story of 2023, Memphis and May or the KCBS scoring issue? It's tight, but 55% of you right now are saying that the bigger news story is the KCBS scoring issue. I'm a little shocked. Let's go ahead and start here this evening. The leader of reaction and comments from the show this past week obviously was Carrie Bringle's segment talking about the new barbecue and music festival taking place at the same time as Memphis and May. Now, technically speaking, there haven't been concrete dates given out yet for the new one. I've seen the week of May 13th, and assuming they're not going to get a hair up their ass and run a barbecue competition midweek, they're probably going to run it over the weekend, and then that falls head-to-head with when Memphis and May is going to be running, of course, but no firm dates given yet, but be on the lookout for that. I would imagine it's going to be over the weekend. I thought the answers that the embedded correspondents gave on the questions really helps to define some items that will measure success for this new event. For the folks interested, they will need to know cost, how the barbecue contest will actually operate, what the prize pool will be, and perhaps most importantly, who else is going to be there. We talked about teams we think would make a switch, but we really know nothing, and that's the bottom line. I think the next big thing to help get this new event going on the contest side of things is for a big-name team or teams, i.e. past winners, potentially, to make their announcement that they are switching. I think there are plenty of folks who think this new event is interesting enough to consider, but fear there will be some kind of disloyalty stigma attached to them if they decide to jump. So it might take a few shocking names to really put Memphis and May on notice. Otherwise, you'll have all the big boys, Peg Leg Porker aside and Liberty Park, and you will also happen to have just some other barbecue contest happening at the same time in Tom Lee Park. Now, to that point, perhaps what will need to happen is seeing this new event produce itself 2 or 3 or 4 years in a row before there is enough trust built up by the big teams to give it a try. Or maybe the other side of the coin is this. All the teams will go to the new one if Memphis and May goes out of business. Having seen some other financial numbers for Memphis and May, I think that going under would require a few more years of major losses. But going to Liberty Park isn't going to help bring in record-breaking revenues by any stretch. So time will tell, and I'm excited to keep this conversation going with Malcom and Heath. Next segment, if you want to weigh in during the chats here in Facebook and YouTube, I'm getting those chats, but nothing from X for whatever reason. But you can watch it over on X. So excited, and we are off and running. Before we get to Heath and Malcom, we'll talk to you quickly about Pits and Spits. Wait, by the way, I do want to say this. Rarely do I recognize those in chat. Making a reappearance after what is almost 17 years away from the show, the pitmaster of Whiskey Bent Barbecue, Chadley Von Ward, is in the YouTube chat. Wow. Great to have you back, Chad. Now, see if you can squirrel up that Dan from Wauchula and we'll have old school reunion. Are you tired of settling for mediocre grilling experiences? It's time to step up your game. Bring the ultimate flavor and cooker to the backyard barbecues. Pit and Spits Charcoal Grills offer the highest quality live fire cooking experience you can get in the market today. Using either wood or charcoal, their solid fuel grills produce those classic flavors you're looking for when you have the time to fire up the grill and cook for family and friends. With a large adjustable fuel tray, you can raise and lower the fire to control and fine-tune the heat. This is their take on the very popular Santa Maria style grill, except it's theirs. Check them out at this unique website, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. That's pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. And don't forget, use the double T on the pits and the spits. Also, use promo code Charcoal Central. All one word, Charcoal Central, for $150 off any charcoal grill that's available for sale over on the Pits and Spits website. Once again, it's Charcoal Central for $150 off any charcoal grill when you visit pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. Great sponsor here in 2023. Happy to have them aboard here. And we'll be back with Malcom Reed and Heath Riles right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back to this portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com. Your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. You visit cookinpellets.com. See what they have available for sale when you're ready to purchase. Go to Lowe's.com or Walmart.com or Amazon.com and buy from there. Better shipping rates, like way better. Chris Becker told me to say that. I'm not speaking out of school. It's good folks over at cookinpellets.com. We got a great segment coming up. It's a guy from Killer Hogs. It's a guy from Heath Riles Barbecue. It's Malcom Reed and Heath Riles. Gents, appreciate you joining me here this evening. Before we get going and start talking about a lot of Memphis talk, let's do the YouTube poll question of the week. Malcom, we'll start with you. The bigger ongoing story of 2023, is it Memphis and May or is it the KCBS scoring issue?
Since we're right here in Memphis, Greg, I'm going to have to say it's the Memphis and May story, man.
All right.
It's our backyard.
Heath, biggest story of 2023 ongoing, is it the Memphis and May or is it the KCBS scoring issues?
Well, at one time, I would tell you it's probably KCBS, but considering I've had probably 100 phone calls over this Memphis and May stuff, I'm going to say Memphis and May as well.
All right. Well, 53% of folks, and a second ago it was just 50-50, but 53% of folks are reporting that KCBS is their biggest ongoing story of the year. Nevertheless, we're happy to have you both here and appreciate the time. Malcolm, back in October, we talked about the Memphis and May topic. Heath, when you were on last month, we also touched on it, but jeepers. It's the topic that doesn't stop giving new content. A week and loose change ago, the latest news was released. A first-year barbecue contest that also has a music festival attached to it that's going to be competing directly with Memphis and May. I had Kerry Bringle on the show last week. We talked about why he made the choice to become a steering member on the competition side of things. And he also talked a bit about the changes he's seen in Memphis and May and how those things have played a part in his decision as well. So let's kind of take a similar step with you two. Malcolm, what's your history with Memphis and May?
Man, we started cooking it back in 06. So I've been doing it, this will be 18 years. So that's a long time to cook a contest and be loyal to it. I mean, we missed the only year we missed in the parks when it flooded and we had to have it at Tiger Lane. And in the COVID year, they had it under construction back out at Tiger Lane again. So that's the only time we've missed in that time period. So, we've been loyal to Memphis and May, and we love the contest, and it's a world championship.
Heath, what's your history with Memphis and May?
I started cooking it in 2007, and like Malcolm, have been there every year except for the 2 years that it wasn't held there, and one other year I did not cook because of work.
All right, I'm going to stop here just for 1 second. Heath, if I could, can you hit the little gear cog thing on the thing and do a mic reconnect? I feel like I'm getting your computer microphone instead of your microphone. Now there's no sound at all.
What about now?
Mm-hmm. Can you tap the mic? Yeah, that's not picking up for some reason.
It should be.
All right. Nevertheless, let's keep going because content is king here. Malcolm, when I listened to Kerry talk about Memphis and May and what sounded like a steady decline of the event over the years, how much of that sentiment, if any, do you share? And if so, what parts do you find in common?
I don't think it's been a steady decline, so to say, is from the team standpoint, other than just the fact that there's other barbecue options now. I mean, you've got the KCBS being a huge organization. You've got these other contests going on. You've got the SCA to compete with. So it has drawn from competition barbecue in general, but Memphis and May is still a big and a major contest. It always draws the teams, and they have the great payout. The trophies are some of the best in barbecue, so that's why people want to come to Memphis and cook. Now, there was a bunch of people that just wanted to go because it was on the river, but I think it's probably more skewed to support the contest than where it's actually at. That's what I'm hearing.
Heath, your thoughts on Kerry's thought that Memphis might have been trending down over the last handful of years?
I mean, I'm not going to say it's been trending down. I think that every festival like that, barbecue contest, has struggled over the last few years just with the cost of everything. But like Malcolm said, it's the world championship. People want to be there, whether it's on the river or wherever it's at. And from that cost standpoint, I can see why Memphis and May just can't afford it anymore.
Heath, are you familiar with who this Ford Momentum Group is? I assume this is who the money is, or do you know people behind Ford Momentum and where this money's coming from?
I heard today that it was somebody maybe from Next Air, like that sells welding gas and all that. There's some of the money behind it, but there's a gentleman named Mike Smith, I think, that's the president of the Ford Momentum Group. And he's been putting on festivals and music fests and stuff a long time. So I'm sure from that side, they know what they're doing to hold an event. But like everybody has said, just wondering, being several months out from an event, what's going on with it? What's the prize money? How's everything going to play out against Memphis and May? There's a lot of unanswered questions.
Malcolm, any insight on who's behind this other than what Heath just mentioned?
I've only seen what you've seen. What Kerry talked about in the interview last week. That's the only thing I've heard. about what's going on. I mean, I knew the guy that Heath was talking about put on festivals and has been behind more of music festivals. I'm not sure he's ever put on barbecue festivals. I haven't heard of one, but it may have. I just don't know about it.
Heath, were you approached by this Forward Momentum group to be a part of a steering committee to help with this barbecue contest?
No, I was not. I have not been. No, I have
Malcom, were you approached by Forward Momentum to be a steering committee member?
I don't have that much clout, I guess, Greg. They didn't call me.
I'm asking you to speculate here. Malcom will stay with you. Do you think or what do you think the intentions are here with this new event?
So now this is purely speculative,
of course,
but it sounded to me like there was some kind of issue with that the people that were in charge of the park now and Memphis and May. Now, I don't know where it stemmed from, if this was before they came back after COVID and tried to have the contest there, or we did have the contest there last year, or if it happened because of the damages and all the backlash over that. But there seemed like there was a reason to get rid of Memphis and May in all forms downtown in Tom Lee Park. And so it wasn't long after they said, Music Fest wasn't going to happen. Barbecue Fest was moving. They announced that they were going to have a music festival there. And then it wasn't, just a few weeks ago is when the Barbecue Fest popped up. So when I heard that, I was like, well, they just don't want Memphis and May to be a part of anything going on down there. That's what it sounds like.
Heath, do you agree with Malcolm's speculatory thought, or do you have something a little bit more speculatory?
I agree with Malcom 100% on that. I always say you have to follow the money. And, Memphis and May being a nonprofit, and I'm not saying other organizations are a for-profit or a not-profit. I don't know the basis of their business, so I'm just speculating here. But if you're not a nonprofit and you're an LLC, which means you're going to make profit, some money's going to pass hands somewhere. And Memphis and May had an insurance policy to cover the damage, and they're working that out now. And there's construction going on at Tiger Lane or Tiger Park, whatever you want to call it, for hotels and all that over there in that area. And they built they're redoing the football coliseum. The city got a grant for that. And so I understand they're trying to build that area up too. And, years ago, I was in the beer business, and they built Bill Street Landing, the Memphis Riverfront Development Corporation did. Well, that's the same corporation, just changed its name to the MMRP. And so I'm going to say they're the same people, because they are. They didn't even run gas line to that building that's down on the end of Bill Street now. So there's been 4 or 5 restaurants fail in it. And so I'm going to say that the Memphis River Parks does not know how to run a business, because if you go to Mud Island, you go to the other parks, they just don't look good. And that's my, point of view. But my speculation, I wish them the best. I wish that the teams knew more and everybody else, and maybe we'll find out more in the coming weeks. Who knows?
I asked the embedded correspondents this question last week. Let me ask you, Heath, and Malcom will come to you secondarily. Do you think this has been in the works? I'm not going to say that this damage bill was just given to them to make sure they leave, but do you think that there was a coordinated effort, as Malcom said, to get Memphis and May out of Tom Lee Park, but there was already a backfill going in? My guy in Michigan said, you just don't come into a vacuum like this. This is something that feels like it's been in the works for a year or two, maybe longer than that. What do you think about that, Heath?
I do feel like this is something that's been in the works a long time. And with me working downtown for as many years as I did, and seeing a lot of it, and being involved with the Music Fest and the Barbecue Fest on the business end of it and sponsorship end, I've seen a lot. And so it's just interesting the way things are playing out now. Because at one time, downtown used to be the place to go, and Malcom can tell you that. Bill Street was kind of like the mini New Orleans. And now it's just not that way. Clubs can't stay open as late. The state stopped beer sales on Bill Street in beverage carts. And so a lot has changed in the last 10 years down there. And so I don't know if all that's kind of had something to do with it or not, but a lot has changed downtown.
Malcom, you think this has been in the works longer than we're led to believe?
Probably so. I mean, it makes sense for it to. They knew Memphis and May, the barbecue, paid for a lot of it. I mean, Music Fest does all the damage when they have it down there to the park. I mean, it's tore up before barbecue teams ever get there. So you can't just blame the barbecue side, but it seems like it was more against the organization, not barbecue teams, not any of us cooks, not any of that. We're just a side part of it. And so I think they needed to host some events down there. They need a reason to bring those tourists to Memphis. And it's true that, Barbecue Fest just doesn't bring the Memphis and May Barbecue Fest isn't really a great public event. I mean, there's always spectators, but it's geared towards you having your own team and your own private parties. And, it's not really something that the public can take a big party and for them to have some kind of vision on how they want to change that. Maybe they saw it and had some people getting in their heads and their ears and saying what they could do with it if Memphis and May was out of the way. So, I mean, that's, speculative, but if you could kind of see where that could go.
Malcom, as we sit here beginning of December 2023, which is rapidly coming to a close, you're going to be competing in Memphis and May next year.
That's our plan. I mean, we got it. Heath, you probably got it last night too. There's a team email went out. They said they had a contract on the park. They said the prize money was going to be bigger than ever. But the shocking thing to me was the CEO announced his retirement.
Yep.
So I don't know if you knew that, but Jim Holt's gone. He's not going to be a part of Memphis and May. Now it said it was a planned thing in the email. I don't know if that was some part of it. That's something we'll all never know that. But as far as, I want to cook the world championship. I want to know. I mean, Memphis and May is not something that you just a week or two ahead of time decide you're going to cook. We don't know the format of this other contest. We don't know the logistics of it. We don't know what kind of rentals we're going to have. We don't know where it's going to be. I've heard different things from it's not going to be in the park to everything's going to be on pavement on Riverside Drive. I've heard that they're going to take the whole mile stretch, so they're going to have more teams than Memphis and May could ever hold. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff buzzing around about this event. But when it comes down to it, nothing's been released yet. I mean, you can sign up for more info, but that's about all I know you can do right now.
Heath, as we sit here in 2023 of December, you're going to be competing in Memphis and May next year?
I will be at Memphis in May. I shared a meme earlier this week. You just any contest can't go out and in a few months' time be a world championship, be a Jack Daniels qualifier, an American Royal qualifier. And so I want to play with the big boys. I'm going to dance with the big boys.
Let's say I was part of
What if
this.
it's $100,000 contest? Now that would change my mind, Greg. If it's $100,000 contest, I'm gonna have to rethink some things.
So let's say I'm part of this. Let's say I'm part of this committee, and I target you two teams specifically that I really want to have at this event. I know what kind of social media I could potentially leverage with you guys. Maybe you're getting excited about it. You're talking about it. Blah blah blah. What's it going to take to get you guys to come to my competition, Heath?
I would hate to put a number on it right now. It would be a big number, a very big number.
Malcom?
Oh, we're going to change the name to Malcom and May and have the Malcom Invitational. I want title sponsorship, Greg.
How about this? What if Malcom, I pay you $2,000 in appearance fee, cover your competition fees, entry fees, whatever, and if you win, you get to keep that money too. Do I have your attention?
I'd pay you $2,000 not to go.
Heath, same deal to you.
That's not even enough to buy a damn good shotgun these days.
Wow. So not even free plus the potential of winning whatever the money is.
No.
Wow.
It's not about the money.
Yep.
At the end of the day, that is not about the money.
Heath, if
we don't do that. I mean, we don't do these contests for the money, Greg.
No kidding.
now But if it's $100,000 contest, I mean, that's getting up there. There hadn't been many of those, if there's been any. I mean, there may have been one or two. I might have come close, but that's huge for one team to walk away with a guaranteed $100,000. That might draw some people.
So if you guys aren't going to jump at my incredibly generous offer, if you started to see some other big teams, let's call them past winners, whatever big team means to you, somebody that would move the needle for you personally, would you think that those teams that are jumping are incentivized, as I had mentioned, to do so, or do you think that they've bought in on something else? Malcom?
I would say some of them are just feel disenfranchised from Memphis and May, and probably were on the way out, thinking about not cooking Memphis and May anyway. But I'm honestly, Greg, I'm going to be surprised if it's the same format barbecue contest that we're used to seeing, or that most people are. I think it's just, that's going to be hard for them to pull off and to draw teams to.
Heath, if you see some big teams jumping, do you agree with Malcom, or do you think they've been incentivized to jump?
I would have to be on the fence about that, about 50-50. I would think some teams might take some money to go, and I would think some teams might just want to change since it's being taken out of the park anyway. I think everybody has their own agenda at the end of the day, and it would be hard to really say one way or the other.
Last week, I asked the embedded correspondents, why not have these events in different weekends versus competing head-to-head? This way, it gives teams the opportunity to taste them both and then make an informed decision going forward. I was ceremoniously laughed off the dais for whatever reason. So as two teams who are legit contenders each year for Memphis and May title, Heath, is this such an outlandish idea to have them on separate weekends, at least maybe for the first or 2 years?
No, I don't, because the way load-in is at Memphis and May, you can load in that Monday, and if you're just a regular team and at a regular contest, that would be feasible to me, at least to try it out to see how it goes. But I'm like Malcom, them doing the same format as Memphis and May and a scoring system and getting enough qualified judges in time, and judges being loyal to Memphis and May, and that it's just so many questions like that up in the air of how can you hold a contest of that caliber and that many teams? Where are you going to get the other judges at if you've got 150 teams over here at one contest and another team over here with 100 teams? How does that work?
Malcom, would you like to see it on not competing weekends instead?
Yeah, I would like to see it on not competing weekends. I think you would pull teams that would cook both. Absolutely. In our area, we've got guys that do that. They'll go from one week to the next week to the next week. And Heath, I know you've done it a lot of times, cooking every single week. Now, there's not a lot of teams that do that, but you would have a better chance at pulling teams for it. But one thing you got to understand about Memphis and May is it blows a lot of teams' budget, that one contest. So a lot of these big teams and the ones that are there for the party, and they're not going to spend 20, 30, 50, some of them way more than that, $1,000 on Memphis and May or on this other barbecue contest and turn around and do it at Memphis and May too. It's just not, I don't think folks have that kind of money. So you got to think at it from that point. And when you look at Memphis and May, yeah, there's, 250 something teams competed last year, Heath, I think, something like that. How many of those teams actually are like when you look at that list are, qualified teams that really got a shot at winning the thing. So you've got some teams that are there for corporate reasons. You've got some teams that are there to party. You've got new teams involved. So there's a fine mix to get all those teams together at Memphis and May, and to do it again at another contest, man, that would be a challenge. It's going to be real interesting, Greg, to see how this shakes out in May.
How do you think it plays out, Malcom?
I think it's going to hurt both of them. I really do, because you're going to split it. And if we've got, say, 300 teams that are willing to cook a contest, and you got to pick or choose which one you're going to, you're looking at each team having 150 teams, or somewhat just total guessing. But if you're splitting that pool of teams, it's going to hurt both of them. They're both going to lose money.
Heath, how do you think it plays out in May?
last year, Memphis and May, since the park was smaller, I think it was about 180 teams. It hadn't been 250
you're right.
in probably 7-8 years. It's dwindled down because of that park size and all that. But it's going to get interesting because Memphis and May's applications are due by February the 1st. And so you've got to make a decision. And this other contest has not even come out with the application yet. And so with one being due in February, when will the other application be due for people to make a reasonable decision within the two? And Malcolm, you know that Memphis and May don't care who you are. If you don't turn in that application by that deadline, you are not getting in. You can hang it up. And
absolutely,
that's going to throw in the fire too, because I know that there's been a lot of signups so far for Memphis and May at Tiger Lane.
I'm very interested to continue to keep tabs on how this is all going to play out. Let's switch gears just for 1 second here, and I appreciate the time here, gentlemen. Heath, what are you recommending from the Heath Riles barbecue line of products as your top recommended gift this holiday season?
I would have to say the brand new glazes that I just launched, the 3-pack, the maple honey habanero, a brown sugar habanero, and a cherry apple habanero.
Why habanero? Why not jalapeno?
I played a lot with jalapeno, and the habanero, the mash that you can get, to me, I didn't make mine really spicy. It's only about a 4.5 to a 5 on heat level. It balances out very well with my rubs and my sauces. So mine is not really spicy at all.
Malcolm, what's the most recommended How to Barbecue Right product this holiday season, besides the ghost pepper jerky, which is just phenomenal?
Man, that's tough. I mean, I'm just going to have to say the barbecue rub, Greg. It's great on everything. And
Yes.
for people that are getting into barbecue that want to try a rub that, it's not going to blow your head off. It's used on all kinds of stuff. And it's probably, I know it's our number one seller. So.
Look, you can go over to Malcolm's website, howtobbqright.com. You can go to Heath's website, heathrilesbbq.com, and buy all of their products. And then you tell me which one you would be recommending for next year's holiday season and go from that. Guys, appreciate the time tonight talking about Memphis and what it all entails here as we get closer to May. And maybe we can reconvene in a month or two and talk about the status and continued success to both you guys. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir. Hey, that's a wrap for 23, Greg.
That's right.
See you
We'll
next
see you next year. All right. See you next year. That's right. We'll see Malcolm back here, and we'll see more of Heath Riles as well. So certainly appreciate them extending out here a little bit. Apologies to Mike Lang, but we'll make up time with him here in just a moment. What are you thinking? By the way, the poll has already flopped. Memphis and May is now in the lead at 52% over KCBS. Wow, exciting. Hey, what do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they can achieve low and slow barbecue temperatures for those traditional barbecue meats. We also love that they can get rip-roaring hot to do the high-heat grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The true abilities of two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is important to both professional and backyard cooks alike, the best way to manage a fire. However, a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. And a Primo grill in the game-changing oval design, the shape gives you the ability to execute that two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. When you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to cook on it. 2 nights ago, fire up the Primo, it gets hot, and then, of course, because I live in Cleveland, here comes the rain, and the wind, and the snow. No worries. The Primo was already warm, the ceramics. It's like a whole different world inside that Primo. Absolutely. So, I'm outside contending with the elements. However, that ceramic cooker on the inside, oh, it's lovely. Moist. The ribs that I were doing just sizzling away. I got the deflector shields there. Over the weekend, it promises to be maybe 50 on Saturday, so we could get first use of either the rotisserie or the pizza oven. I will keep you advised. Primo, only available at dealers. Find a dealer near you, primogrill.com. Visit the dealer, touch the ovals, and buy the one that's best for you. We're back with Mike Lang from Another Pint Please. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
We thank Malcom Reed and Heath Riles for joining us last segment. HowToBBQRight.com and HeathRilesBBQ.com, respectively. This portion being brought to you by Fireboard, where you can monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously, connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via the Bluetooth. If you have smart speakers in your home, there's a great chance that Fireboard integrates with those. You can find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. And don't forget about the brand new product, the Fireboard Beacon. My next guest tonight, a quarterly guest here in 2023. If you follow him on social media or visit his website, you're typically delighted at his recipe creations and his photography and video shooting skills. Brand-wise, most notably associated with industry leader Weber. He is an inaugural member of the Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame back in 2018. And we welcome back our pal Mike Lang to the show. Mike, we have a YouTube poll question of the week, and it is raging in Discord at the moment, but I'm going to ask you this. The bigger ongoing news story of 2023, Memphis and May, or the KCBS scoring issue? What do you say?
Memphis and May.
Memphis. All right. Well, you'll be happy to know that 56% of folks are now saying that Memphis and May is the bigger ongoing story. I also agree with that, by the way, just from the sheer amount of ongoing new content that's being put out. Even before Memphis and May even happened, I remember talking about the lead up to the event and then the event itself and then all the nonsense that's happened after that. So 56% are currently saying it's Memphis and May. Roughly 3 weeks from now, Christmas will be upon us. However, this coming weekend, actually Thursday, Hanukah starts. Any dishes inspired by that holiday, that being Hanukah, that you'll be whipping up for social media sites and other things?
Yeah, funny you mentioned that, actually. I just wrapped up Hanukah donuts for Weber, which will be coming out here in the next couple of days. So again, never done before. Anytime you can introduce baking to the grill, it's kind of a cool deviation from doing something in the oven. They're easy, they're small, they're delicious. You can't have just one. I think it's interesting too, whenever I did them on the gas grill and a baking stone, and people will complain, it's not on charcoal or whatever. But you know what? A lot of times it's not the appliance that you're using or the type of grill that you're using. It's the fact that you are going outside, especially this time of year. Get outside, right. Fill your breath with, fresh air, and enjoy being out of the house.
And by the way, for us, we're real men because we're in the teeth of cold. I mean, give me a break. Real men stuff here. So what's the recipe for those donuts?
Yeah, it's a yeast flour recipe, a pretty simple rise. You can get it knocked out in under 4 hours from beginning to end. The best part at the end is once they're cooked under 12 minutes, you can then roll them in sugar, and then you're going to pipe into them jelly for a filling. So it's a tasty little treat, and they're absolutely delicious, and look forward to sharing them with everybody when Hanukah starts.
What's the main Christmas protein for the Lang house?
Yeah, prime rib.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
All right, great.
I'm turkeyed out by the end of Thanksgiving. I mean, let alone content shooting. I've been through 4 turkeys already. So by the time Christmas rolls around, you could go poultry, but no, definitely a standing rib roast.
So you are much like every content creator that I have on the show, where probably months in advance of the actual Thanksgiving holiday, you're ripping through turkeys at breakneck speed. Outside of that, are you a turkey eater in general, or is the Thanksgiving time and then your creation time ahead of that the only time you're really taking in turkey?
No, I am. I think I thank my dad for that, because he's always been a big, whole roast chicken or grilled chicken or turkey. And that's always been part of my childhood. So I think I've carried that with me through as an adult. But yeah, you sit down, it's nice. You've got one big, huge protein. It looks beautiful. There's wonderful presentation, and who doesn't love the sides? Oftentimes more than the main event itself, whether it be stuffing and mashed potatoes or a sweet potato casserole, which, is like having dessert as a side. It's wonderful. I love it. And I'll definitely have it, more than just at the holidays. But man, this time of year, though, I'm on to some beef.
All right, so let's talk about rib roast, because I'm also going to be confirming your protein of choice for the holiday season. We're going to be getting, I think, a 17-pound prime grade rib roast from Kevin down there at the Butcher Shop in Pensacola, Florida. I'm paying for it. What are your best ways to cook it? I wish I wasn't paying for it, by the way. It's 17 pounds, but I'm going to pay for it.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's the rotisserie, which is kind of funny even for a turkey. I just love using the rotisserie, and something special like that also. I think it's a very lenient cooking process. You've got that slow spin at a slower temp, and it just looks visually exciting. So when you got guests coming over, because you're having a huge, standing rib roast, people are going to be over, they're going to come outside. And what better way to entertain than come outside to the grill and watch that thing spin around? And as it cooks, the meat retracts, the bones protrude. It's just, it's a beautiful thing to not only behold, but delicious to eat.
So you talked bones protruding. Are you like take them off, tie them back on, or leave them all the way on, cut them off after the fact? And secondary follow-up to that is, you ever done boneless?
If the butcher wants to go ahead and remove the bones and tie them back on, I'll definitely do it. If I'm going to do it, probably not. I'll just leave them on. I get it's easier, but you know what? It's as easy to cut them off once it's cooked as well. And boneless, yeah, I've done that as well too. But to me, the taste is about the same, but it is just simply I love the visual aspect. You know that. I like to take pictures and shoot video. And to me, anything that makes that visual image more interesting, and definitely those bones do, that's what I want to see. And my guests too.
Any idea what you're running the rotisserie at, temperature-wise?
Usually about medium low, so probably 300 degrees. And I'm typically one too to push the coals only to one side. I really want that gentle heat to slowly cook whatever it is I'm spinning, versus putting them off at both sides. So I wanted to hit the heat once, go around, and you know what? I mean, especially going back to turkeys, it does a great job on the skin. It doesn't cook it too fast where it tends to split. And then, of course, for beef, to make sure you hit that medium rare, it's a nice way of slowly coming up the temp to not miss your mark and just, provide a wonderful feast.
What temperature are you pulling off at? Is that like a 130 for you, or are you lower than that and allow for carryover?
Yeah, I'm at 115, 120. I really want to make sure it's medium rare and let it rest for a good 30 minutes plus. But yeah, I'd rather shoot, like most things, I'd rather shoot low than shoot high.
Seasoning wise, pretty simple stuff.
Yeah, salt, pepper, maybe put some garlic cloves into it as it goes. But I always say, seasonings are great, but you can only detect so much. I want something that's going to be basic and flavorful. And to me, that's usually that Dalmatian, just something very simple. Pepper and a third, whatever that third might be. It could be paprika, it could be garlic, it could be a healthy dose of onion. But I just like something simple. It's bold.
Best side dishes for your prime rib. What do you like?
Planked mashed potatoes. In my cookbook, that's one of the things that you kind of take it for granted. You're like, I love mashed potatoes any which way, but you put it on a cedar plank and you basically reheat those potatoes on the grill. So you get the smoldering ember from the wood, encapsulating those cooked potatoes, top it with some cheese, some scallions, some bacon. Once again, it looks beautiful. It comes right off the grill, put it on the table. But people, too, that have read the book and haven't had that before, I've had more probably Amazon reviews and pictures of people trying that. It's just so simple. And to me, it's got to be on the table at the holidays.
So the planks coming off the grill and then right onto the table, you're not then spooning them off into a bowl or anything?
No, it's all about the presentation. They've got good arms.
Right.
Have them take a look at it. Pass it around, put it obviously on a sheet or something so you're not burning your table. But it looks great, and people then can see where it came from, and maybe it inspires an idea in them. But planks are great.
So you mentioned the book and how you're getting these pictures of the plank mashed potatoes. What's on your Christmas wish list here in 2023?
For me, it would be to get my new grill studio finally organized and up and running, which may be a New Year's resolution. But that's probably the biggest thing I want. I've moved into this new wonderful 1,500 square foot inside studio with 700 plus square feet outside to be able to create the content that I do, year round in a new space. And that's really what I'm excited about and getting up and running, which is why you hear a little bit of an echo bouncing here. I'm in the middle of this room right now trying to deaden the sound, but it's got a lot of great possibility. And this is my Christmas.
I mean, it looks like, compared to what we were looking at yesterday during sound check, I mean, the sound is easily 100% better, and obviously the shot is much better because you're with your pro camera instead of using whatever's integrated into the computer. So looking dapper, and as always, the one where the standard is raised is Mike Lang when he appears on this show, no doubt about it, for every other guest. Let's flip the script a little bit. I'm sure you're the person who folks want to consult with when it comes time to buying a gift for their live fire enthusiast within the family or friend, whatever. What's on the Mike Lang gift giving guide in 2023?
Two things. Number one, a really good thermometer and a really good timer. ThermoPen makes that the Trio timer. I forget the name, forgive me, but that thing is in my back pocket all the time. My dad wears it around his neck, often color coordinating with his vest to keep his core warm. But those are the two things that are going to save you when you're grilling, especially this time of year. If you're in the Midwest like we are, use the timer to keep you in the ballpark, and then use that instant read thermometer to get you where you want to be. Great stocking stuffers.
You're on trend. Part of the deal for what you do, of course, being social media and providing pictures and doing what's popular. What caught your fascination with the live fire industry this year?
The rethinking of, how do I phrase this right? Oftentimes taking simple things and making them new again. And I wish I had a better example to give you, but I find that quite interesting, is to take something everyone takes for granted and then to put it in the grill and make something new out of it. There's always, that those three ingredient recipes, or something simple like, I don't know, taking Spam or making, meat in a pot. I think you've talked about before, or meat in a can. I find those things interesting because what's old is new again. And I find that, enjoyable.
What trend hurt your heart in the live fire industry this year on social media?
None.
No, I have one.
Nothing. Oh, what's your, Greg?
Yes.
In the live fire industry this year on social media, what's broken your heart?
Smoked cream cheese. Get over yourself. Are you kidding me? That hurt my heart.
Recently. It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
But I always say, play to your strengths. If you like it, you like it. And there's a bunch of silly stuff, out there that I could, not take a lot of. But on the whole, people are making food, they're excited about it, and they're actually enjoying it, then, more power to you.
Are you familiar with Married to BBQ on Instagram?
I'm not.
Yeah,
No.
I didn't know anything about her. Jess Priles told me I should follow her a couple weeks ago. This lady took a shit all over Thor's hammer. I saw it today. Maybe it's been out for a little while. I thought that was a fairly unique trend I thought it was going to get bigger than it did this year, but she shit all over it, saying that this is way too expensive to turn into taco meat. Did you see Thor's hammer, and is that a nonsense trend, potentially?
I wouldn't say nonsense. It's got its place, probably. Once again, I go back to the presentation, which is why people look at it and go, well, that's pretty amazing. Well, yeah, it is. And if you're feeding a lot of people and you could cook it right, then why not enjoy it? But just to do it because you can do it, there's not a whole lot of value in that. But I know you are not necessarily a fan, if I remember right.
A fan of what?
Of Thor's hammer.
Oh, well, I think our question this year was, what's the bigger waste of money, tomahawk or Thor's hammer? And we all agreed that tomahawk steak was the bigger waste of money because Thor's hammer's yield was much better than the tomahawk. But, what's your favorite beer at the moment?
Funny you mentioned. I'm drinking it's from Warp Wing, which is a local brewery here in Dayton, and they've got a collaborative every year with a chocolate shop that was founded here in Dayton in 1952 called Esther Price. And it is a coconut cream milk stout. Every year it's different. This year's is fantastic. If you're at all in the Midwest, you probably have heard of Esther Price. I know when we lived outside of DC, we'd have it shipped to us before we moved back to Dayton. Wow. But it's a phenomenal collab. It's a stout this time of year is perfect, and add a little bit of sweetness in there and lactose, and it's delicious.
What about cocktail-wise? What are you into in the holiday season? Eggnog?
Actually, yes and no. Every year I'll make an aged eggnog.
How do you do that? Eggnog from the year before?
A lot of, yeah, actually I do. Funny you mentioned that. I've got two other batches that are still in the fridge.
Wow.
But there's literally so much alcohol in it. It's pasteurized. It's good. It's interesting when you make a new batch. I really think the newer batches taste better. The longer it sits, it gets a little more funky. It's not bad, but it's definitely different. So it's quite an interesting treat. Oddly, my family and friends, no one really likes my little eggnog adventure, but I tell you what, if you Google it, I know Alton Brown's got one. Michael Ruman up by you has got a recipe for it. But it's really good. Like I said, boozy, but you like your eggnog that way. It's fabulous. So yeah, it's good.
Look, this is Mike Lang. You can find him at Another Pint Please. You can find him on all the social media channels as well. I recommend following him on Instagram because he's got great pictures, content, Twitter as well. And if you've ever seen a Weber commercial, there's a very good chance if you didn't see Mike as a whole person, probably saw his hands or his feet or legs or something like that because he shoots a tremendous amount of content for that, always at a high level. Mike, appreciate the quarterly visits here in 2023. I'm going to ask you point blank right here, because it's rapidly coming to a close in 2023. I think I've said that 3 times already. Are we on quarterly for 2024? Yes or no?
Oh, hell yes.
Yes. All right. I have it on tape, so you can't back out. Have a great holiday. Tell everybody I said hi, and we will see you in Q1 of 2024.
Thanks, Greg. Have a wonderful holiday and New Year. Talk to you soon.
All right. You too, pal. Mike Lang right there. Closing it out in style and on time, as she always does. You can follow him over at anotherpintplease.com. Let's wrap up that first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by nobody. Joke's on you.
Yeah.
We thank Mike Lang from Another Pint Please. That's what I wanted to say. AnotherPintPlease.com, available socially for you to follow as well on all the major platforms. Once again, I recommend either Twitter or Instagram. What I like about Mike, especially on Instagram, is if he's shooting a picture in his stories, like every once in a while, he gives you the setup. Not in a I'm better than you way, but let me help raise your picture-taking game way. I like it. Mike says a thermometer and a timer, what he's recommending most. I'm going to recommend the Fireboard Spark this year, yes. It is an instant read me thermometer. It's also a timer. There's a timer in there. And if you have a Fireboard and you have 4 or 5, maybe you have it fully loaded out with all the 6 different ones, it can now become a clearinghouse of information on the Fireboard. You can take it with you. So you can see each probe will be listed out on the Spark. Yes. So leave your phone somewhere, take the Spark with you. Always be up to date. That's my recommendation for all the interviews I'm going to be doing before the end of the year. Let's go ahead and point to that beloved second hour. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how you doing?
great show. I'm a big fan. So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Sean Bono! It's all about the Sean Bono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Oh, listen, Libertius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It is the Barbecue Central show where we talk about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. This show originates from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
Still to come on the show this evening, 2023 Barbecue Central show's guest Hall of Famer Ed Maurin. Give the origin story of Fast Eddie. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to Facebook, Facebook and X tonight. Actually, somebody jaunt on over to the X and make sure that the live feed is up and then report back in the instant chat. It should be. Let's just make sure. Why not? So Facebook and X currently, that's / or at BBQ Central Show, depending on the platform you're going to watch at. You can also watch over on YouTube, which is youtube.com / at BBQ Central Show. We have a YouTube poll question of the week, which has been going back and forth at a feverish pitch. I'm asking everybody the bigger ongoing news story of 2023, Memphis and May, or KCBS scoring issues. And currently 53% of you are saying it's Memphis in May. So while the majority of the first hour saw KCBS scoring issues taking the lead in that respect, Memphis in May has made a big swing, especially after we got done with the Malcom and Heath Riles segment. And you know what? Please, I beg of you, save the emails about how good Malcom sounded and how Heath sounded like he was in a room. Next time, we'll sound check. I promise he had the microphone there. It was all working before, but I'm not going to... I know that time was ill-budgeted, and I had a lot of questions that I wanted to get through, and as it was, we had to run over a little bit, so I wasn't going to be messing around. Will I break my own rules from time to time? Yes. Why? Because I live in hypocrisy. That's what I do. That's me, remember? I am a contradictor living in the state of hypocrisy. In the city of contradiction. That's me. Anyway, 53% saying Memphis and May. And that quickly started to roll back when we got done with Malcom and Heath segment. So, yeah, let's see how that rolls. The rest will be anxious to hear what Fast Eddie has to say about that. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 311, taking you back to December 1st, 2009. Being featured this week is Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer and the original creator of Barbecue Pitmasters series, John Marcus. We're going back now, 2009. In this segment, we are actually going back to when Pitmasters, Barbecue Pitmasters, which, by the way, I said like 2 or 3 weeks ago that that's a show that you can still see on television. I just saw a commercial for it. Is it on True TV? Whatever the Impractical Jokers are on. I saw a commercial for it on that channel. Now, I don't know if they were promoting it because it's on that cable channel or not, if it was going to be somewhere else, and they were buying time on another station to promote it, whatever. The bottom line is this. Barbecue Pitmasters is going to be on this weekend, so it is still being shown. It is still popular. But we are going back to the time when Barbecue Pitmasters was being released for the very first time, December of 2009. And as I think about it, why in the sweet hell was a TV channel deciding to release a barbecue show in the middle of winter. So weird when you think about it. However, it didn't diminish the amount of buzz that was going around the industry back then, how excited everyone was to have the industry exposed to the mass public. And really, this is the show that caused what I call the golden era of barbecue that I mention every so often on the show, with John Marcus. And without this show, we have known of what we had in the past 5. Without this show, we would not have known what we do in this last 5 to 8 year stretch, maybe 10 years at this point, because I think Pitmasters made it 11 seasons. I don't think that goes calendar years. I think sometimes, depending on how a show actually shoots, you could have 3 seasons inside of a calendar year. However, that doesn't change the fact that 11 seasons of Barbecue Pitmasters in some form or fashion actually happened. So if you aren't familiar with John, or you're not familiar with Barbecue Pitmasters, this is a great way to get acquainted with both. By the way, once again, Barbecue Pitmasters is going to be on television this coming weekend. I was going to say, still plays routinely on cable TV, but yeah, I mean, so routinely that it's going to be this coming weekend. I don't know why this coming weekend, but it is. Actually, when you come to think about it, what are the odds of this time? It's the 5th now, the 7th, the 8th. So Saturday, if they start playing it Saturday, it will be the 14th year anniversary of when it was launched. Look at my math. Chad, I'm glad you tuned back into this show so you can see that my arithmetic skills are still second to none, pal. I am sharp. Let me plus or minus a number. I can also times it and divisional all day long, twice on Sunday. You can subscribe to the show by visiting thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. And by show, I mean the best of show, but also replays of this show. And if you want to hear a past guest or segment again that you think has been lost in the archives, email John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com and let him know what you would like to hear. This particular piece of gold is something, where did I see it? Oh, yeah. Let me pull, I got to go all the way down to my thing here. Now, you know this guy. This is John Solberg right here. Let me make sure I get that out. I watched this video. I don't know, 1,000 times the other day. Passed it along to everybody I knew. I was like, this is insane. It's the best video. You know it's a good video when you watch it the first time and you're like, wow. And then you watch it again. And then like the 3rd and 10th time, you're laughing incredibly hard. But every time you're playing through it, and this video I'm about to show you is like 15 seconds long tops. There's so many things going on. There's so much nuance. You can go back and listen to it like 700 times, and you're picking out new things each and every time. I'm telling you, it's fantastic. If you didn't see it or I didn't share it with you on Instagram for whatever reason, don't be offended. Just take a watch and a listen to this. Let me make sure I got the sound off there. Got the sound on here. I apologize if it's coming in hot. Let me go down here to, what number is this? 53. I'm going to pull down the sound a little bit, just a little bit, because what they say in this is key. Just check this out.
Be careful, please, Jesus.
All right, now look. If you're watching, you can follow along. Immediately, you see we got issues. If you're listening, number one, go back. This is something you're going to want to see on video replay, but I'm going to try and paint a picture for you. Here it is. What do we tell you not to do on Thanksgiving? Don't boil your fucking turkeys. Don't do it. It's dangerous. It's trouble. Disaster waiting to happen. You name it. It's very bad. Here's an instance right off the bat that you know things are amuck. And this is where the general public decides to take advantage of you, the proper human. and move ahead with their nonsense and shenanigans. What's the first thing you notice? People in the chat, what's the first thing you notice here? His pot of oil is already on fire. There's nothing in there except oil, and it's on fire. And he's got a turkey hovering over it. Now, to me, that's a danger sign. I'm not putting that turkey in. I'm not going to do it. Nevertheless.
Move back. Now light it up. Oh my God, the fire! You fucking die!
I mean,
I say something.
There's nothing better. There's nothing better than that. You saw how quickly that video went from we're going to have a good time to the house is burning down. Did you hear the lady in the background? She's praying that nothing bad happens, number one. Then you hear the girl in the background when he starts to lower the turkey down into the oil. The light him up. And then what? Inside of 2 seconds, everybody's sprinting back into the house, which probably wasn't the best idea anyway, because now that house is probably on fire. If you missed it, it's this again. I mean, look, it's already on fire. The oil is already on fire. But let's press ahead. He's much smarter than the average human.
Move back. Now
light him up.
It up.
She's laughing. And now the whore.
You fucking die!
The lady's swearing up and down. The one that was like, oh, be careful. Now she's F-bombing this. The kid that was singing Imagine Dragons or whatever the hell the song is quickly went from laughing to like gasping. One more time because I know you want to see it. Listen for everything that's happening here.
Jesus. Move back. Now light it up. Oh my God, the fire! You fucking die!
Every time I say something about deep frying turkeys, my comments fill up with, they're not doing it right. And I hate to tell you, Captain Obvious, you're correct.
You're right. John, you are right. Wow. I could play that thing for the rest of the show. Let's all agree on this before we go to Fast Eddie. Don't do it. Don't deep fry your turkeys. Stupid. Number 2, if you're going to do it anyway, all right, you're a grown person. You make your own decisions. If you fire up your cauldron of oil and it's on fire, first, please don't continue ahead with dropping the turkey in the oil at that point. Like, that's a visual cue for you to know you should not be putting anything in that. It's on fire. It shouldn't be on fire. But you go ahead and, as we say, you do you, boo. You drop that turkey in there. You show them who the boss is. That's right. Hope your house is good. Because as you were running away, you pulled that whole thing over. It was on fire. Now we have a fireball of oil coming into the house. Oh, the fire! Listen up, gang. Sterling Ball over at Big Poppa Smokers has something special just for you, listeners of the show. Whether you're a seasoned pitmaster or a grilling newbie, Big Poppa Smokers, your one-stop shop for all things barbecue. From their championship rubs, mouth-watering sauces, essential accessories, they've got what you need to take your food to the next level, whether you're on the competition circuit or you're in the backyard. Here's the cherry on top. Big Poppa Smokers is offering the listeners of the Barbecue Central show an exclusive deal, and you know what it is. Use the code REMPE at checkout. That's R-E-M as in Michael, P as in Peter, E. You'll get $10 off your next $50 purchase of rubs, sauces, or essential accessories. Imagine the possibilities. Let me paint a picture. Evaluate your ribs with Big Poppa's Sweet Money. Add Big Poppa's Desert Gold to your chicken, or better yet, pick up Big Poppa's Double Secret. Add it to your steak. Winner. Head on over to BigPoppaSmokers.com and start shopping today. And start now for the holiday season. Why? Because you can give the gift of deliciousness, and you can give yourself the gift of saving cash. because you can use promo code REMPE, REMPE, at checkout and claim $10 off your next order of $50 or more. That means $50 is really $40. That means $100 is really $80. You can do the math. I know you can. What I tell you, Chad, I'm sharp. Promo code REMPE, REMPE, at BigPoppaSmokers.com. Save $10 off your next order of $50 or more. Don't forget to check out Big Poppa's full line of recipes at cookingwithbigpoppa.com and follow them on social media, of course. We are back with the origin story of Fast Eddie. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, available in 3 sizes, a host of accessories. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a professional, it's a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. My next guest is one of the pellet cooker pioneers, creating the very popular FE line of cookers. What you might not know about him is he is an avid dirt race car driver. Pellets, fire, horsepower, all make sense to me. He's been appearing on this show since it was in podcast-only form. How long ago was that? How about dating back to 2007, if you can believe it? And this October, he became one of the 5 past guests to be included in the 2023 Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. I couldn't be more excited to welcome back our pal, Fast Eddie. Eddie, before we get going here this evening, we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, and it's this, and we'd love to get your answer on it. The bigger ongoing barbecue news story of 2023, is it Memphis and May, or is it the KCBS scoring issue?
Wow, that is that.
Only hard-hitting questions here on the Barbecue Central Show.
Well, those are you're hitting those 2 right on the head. I'm gonna pick the scoring issue.
Oh, while that was in the early lead in hour number 1, Memphis and May has steadily gained steam. They're currently in the lead with being the biggest story. Memphis and May at 55%, 45%. Saying KCBS and the associated scoring issues are the biggest story of 2023, and we'll see how that goes for the rest of the evening here. So, congratulations on getting into the Guest Hall of Fame. I guess before we get to know all about Eddie and doing the origin story thing, is there any speech or any type of dissertation that you would like to give on how your life has changed over the last few weeks since making it into the Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame?
Wow, it's been it's quite an honor to get this, and the beautiful ring that you sent is top notch. I don't have to carry brass knuckles anymore in my pocket for safety.
That's right.
I just wear my ring. It's a massive, but no, to pioneer the podcast world like you did in barbecue, it's fantastic. I remember doing the brisket round table, and that was a big, that was a real popular topic back in the day, and you had some great people on there, and I was truly honored to be, been a guest in the early days, and congratulations on all your success and keeping it going and improving it every year. So it's fantastic. You're setting the mark.
That brisket roundtable, Eddie, is still routinely one of the most downloaded shows over the history of the show. I mean, we're going on 16 years of live shows, and then 2 years before that is podcast. When you did it, as you'd mentioned, this was just the podcast at that point. It was you. was Dr. Barbecue, who's also in the Guest Hall of Fame. It was Leanne Whippen, who made it into the Guest Hall of Fame last year. And then Jim Minion, who I think it's a travesty that his name has probably been lost in the annals of barbecue here. But talk about 3-4 of the biggest names in barbecue back at that time, and still seem to be names of revelry as we talk about, where barbecue has grown over the years. But man, talk about, here's the thing I took away from the 2007. Everybody on that panel took a shit on Wagyu beef. And look where we are today, Eddie.
Well, you're right. I think we were a lot poorer back then than we are today. So maybe that made a difference.
All right, Eddie. So let's go ahead and do the origin story of Ed Maurin, and let's start where everybody starts, in the very beginning. When were you born? Where were you born?
I was born in 1959 in Kansas City, Missouri. This is my hometown. And I come from a family of 5 kids. And my dad made a living when he finally settled down and figured out what he was going to do in his life, which was right about the time I was born. He was a welder for Kenworth KW Dart Truck Company. So my grandfather taught him how to do that. So it was kind of in my, metalworking. He always had something around the house. So that became a big part of my life too. We were too poor to buy stuff, so I had to learn how to build everything that I wanted, which was good. I mean, it was the heritage, that helped me figure out what to do. I was not good with books.
As you were growing up before school and all that stuff, what do you remember family life being like for you, especially being 5 siblings?
It was rather lots of fun. I mean, there's always something going on. My mom and dad told the story. When I was 2, they had me a little pedal car. And we had a big front porch on the house, and I would go as fast as I could from one side of the porch to the other. So speed was in my life real early on. And then it was, I wouldn't trade it for anything, because we did everything we wanted to do. And as far as playing with kids and riding bikes and showing up back home when the street lights came on. I mean, all that stuff that you hear out there, it's exactly how we grew up. It was a great time.
What kind of a
didn't have a lot of money, but we didn't know we were poor, so it just didn't matter.
What kind of a relationship do you have with your siblings growing up?
Not too bad. Kind of rivalry with my brother, because he was only 2 years younger than me. So he was always, on my coattails doing stuff. So if I was in scouts, he was in scouts. They try to move him up. So we kind of did things together, which was, I kind of like my own identity at times, instead of having to, like dragging the little brother around all the time. But, but then I had 3 sisters, and I had 2 older sisters, which you're not able to, I didn't ever connect with them as well, because they were quite a bit older than I got. My oldest sister's 5 years older than me, and my other one, she's 3 years older than me. So, or 3 to 4. But, just a hardworking Catholic family.
Your parents stay together?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. They've been together. And I'll tell you what, every one of my siblings married, or none of them have ever divorced neither. I just, turned 44 years in marriage this year.
Wow.
So that's something to be said, from our background.
What kind of a relationship do you recall having with your parents as you're growing up?
Didn't get to see my dad a lot. He worked 2 to 3 jobs. So
Wow.
if I seen him, it was on Sunday, And then when I got in my early teens, I actually went to work with him on Saturday. There was a guy that had a trailer business, and he rented out diesel or big semi trailers, and then they would do maintenance on them. on Saturdays. And so I was kind of a yard grunt. He'd go there and go around and check lights and thump tires and get water off of tarps. And, that was my first learning. I think I was like 13 years old when I started doing that with my dad.
Do you like doing that because this is time that you're going to get to spend with your dad, or are you bummed out that this is the only way you're going to be able to spend some time with your dad?
No, it was great to try to learn, get some work ethic and understand what his life was about. It was nice to get some pocket money, knowing because they didn't have the money just to hand out to us when we wanted stuff. So it was pretty cool to, start developing that working relationship with people. And I think that was huge in my life, being able to do those kinds of things. Because today, even as of today, I still work all the time. I'm doing what I want to do when I want to do it, but I'm always doing something moving forward, and I just totally enjoy it.
What's the food scene like at your house as you're growing up?
Oh boy. Fridays, you can just about bet you're going to have to eat salmon patties.
Salmon patties?
Oh yeah, fish for Fridays. On the Catholics, and
okay.
It was like a steady diet of salmon patties or fish sticks. Back in the day, Sundays were a lot of fried chicken on Sundays. It was kind of the normal thing, and you could feed a lot of people. Pretty reasonable. We never went out to eat much. My grandfather helped my dad build a brick barbecue pit at our house, and he was not real great with it, but he did manage to cook some decent ribs. It was a grilled rib, and then of course burgers and stuff like that basically was it. So it was always kind of a spectacle when he fired up that brick cooker and he made a stainless steel lid for it, so that was pretty cool. But that was about the basis of it. We were never much in the culinary scene of things when you're just trying to feed 5 kids. And
do you recall when he's lighting up that pit, did that give you a spark or any inspiration at that young age that maybe you would be into live fire at any point?
No, not at that time. Really, it was kind of interesting to see it, when he fired it up. But we never did any kind of offset type cooking. It was mostly grilling, is really what it was. We never really did any offset cooking until the part of the story when he had a neighbor a couple of doors up the street. Dad was known to be kind of the metal guy and a welder in the neighborhood, and or fix things and kind of make things. And he would make basketball goals and things to make extra money for the household there. He was always doing something, obviously. And anyway, the neighbor came down and he wanted a smoker built. And well, what's that? And he had a old camping trailer frame with an axle, and then he had a 500-gallon diesel tank. And then he wanted to build this offset kind of cooking thing. He was one of the original members of the Kansas City Barbecue Society.
Wow.
And his name was Neil Van Hoosier is his name. And so that's what the spark was. That was like 1985, 86, right in there is when that was.
Are you someone in high school that enjoyed those years?
I loved them.
Yeah. How were you as a student?
Awful. But I enjoyed the social aspect of it, the friends that I had. My senior year, I went to it was cooperative occupational education, So I only went to school for 3 hours, and the rest of the day I went to work. At that time I was working at a service station, and it was I they taught you in the COE class, they taught you real live things that you were going to have to do, like how to balance a checkbook. And your supervisor at work would fill out some things, questionnaire for them, and that teacher, Don Robbins, I'm still friends with him to today. And he definitely brought tears to my eyes the other day, because Don went to work for some companies, and I ended up making some parts for him, fabricating some stuff, and then also got to talk to Don, and he was actually for a company that ended up getting into the food truck business. And so I was pretty deep in a lot of things way back before stuff started going, and built some tank stuff for them, and how they were doing some water systems. And anyway, Don posted a thing up. He says, one of the only students that taught me more than I taught him.
Wow.
And it just blew me away. I mean, when you got one of your favorite teachers in school to say that about you, was pretty special to me.
As you finish up high school, are you looking to go to college, or are you just looking to go to work?
Oh no, I'm not a college guy.
No.
I was looking to go make a living, and I actually ended up going to work at it was about 3 or 4 months after I graduated high school. Kenworth Truck Company didn't hire relatives, and they changed that policy, and I actually got hired at Kenworth Truck Company down at the factory. And so then I became a utility welder for Kenworth after about a year, and I went to some night classes besides what my dad taught me, and got my certifications on things. And so I was following in the family footsteps of that kind of background. And man, you talk about a fun job. We were pretty wild. I mean, I had a hot rod pickup, and I actually got married at age 20. And my wife was 19 at the time. Well, she was only 19 for about another week before her birthday. But we married extremely early, and but life was a party and tons of fun. And it was basically, staying sideways and 100 miles an hour. That's what life was about.
So your welding was there any other job or career that you lusted after a little bit and was able to attain, or did you just want to, work to provide the lifestyle you wanted to lead?
Well, yeah, my goals I didn't have these specific goals, I mean, Kenworth moved out of town in 1983. They started having a reduction in workforce. And so I started working at different shops. That was probably one of the best educations I had, because I learned how to do a whole variety of different things. I ended up working as a millwright for a while. That was a great education. And everybody I worked for, I ended up becoming pretty wanted. I mean, if I needed a job or something, or I'd leave a job, they'd always say, if you ever need employment, you call me first. And I always enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed I enjoyed making stuff. I enjoyed being productive. I didn't cry the blues about things. I always attacked anything I went after. And I felt like having that mentality was always a good deal. And then that kind of drove me when my wife's family, he's a Kansas City firefighter. My father-in-law was. And that's what, and then where I moved to, our second house we moved to, I moved across the street from a chief of the Kansas City Fire Department. And at that time I was working for a tunneling company, and I ended up being a supervisor for this tunneling company and doing road boring and tunnels. And those guys, their attitude, one day they're rich and the next day they're broke, and you need them. You had to call a certain bar to get them. You never knew what they were going to be like. And so I kind of got fed up with them. And I said, you know what? I think I'll go down and apply at the fire department. I said that at least I'll have a pension at the end of it, and I can make up the difference because I made a lot of money. And I said, I can make up the difference on my days off. So that's what got me to go to the Kansas City Fire Department and get on there. I was 28 years old when I got on the fire department. Kind of almost too old. At 30 is all the age they would take you to.
How long do you stay a firefighter?
In my 20th year, I ended up in my second back surgery, and that's when they pensioned me off. I'm kind of bummed out about how they did it, but they said I went and did after my second surgery, I went through work hardening and actually went back. They put me back to duty for 2 weeks, and then I got a phone call from my BC, and he said, "Hey, I got to put you back off on light duty. You didn't pass all your test." And there was one segment of my test that was very, very close to being susceptible. Everything you have to do weight-wise as a firefighter, minimum is 100 pounds. So this test they test you out at, it's about 4 hours long, and they make you do all kinds of stuff. And it was a knuckled overhead lift that got me where that pain shot down my foot from my first surgery and buckled my leg when I was going overhead with this milk crate that had these tubes of shot in it set up on a shelf. And I don't know how much was in it, but anyway, so they send me to a pension doctor, and she says, "Gosh, this is so close. I don't see why you shouldn't keep, working."
Yeah.
And so I waited for 2 weeks for her letter, and I'll be darned if she said 180 degrees. She did 180 degrees from what she told me. She hammered me.
Oh.
And so then they pensioned me off. I was pretty PO'd and bent about it, but I wasn't going to go to the point of hiring a lawyer, to stay on the job because the union wasn't doing it. And of course, all the union dues I paid, union wasn't doing anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I had barbecue going real well by that time too. And a lot of people, why do you want to stay on that job? You really got life going on. And it's the culture of the fire department is back in that day anyway. It was definitely something, just loved it. I absolutely loved that job. And of course I'm an adrenaline junkie. I wouldn't be off-road racing, and I wouldn't have done everything I did in my life if I wasn't an adrenaline junkie, and that I just loved the idea of when that bell went off, you had no clue what you were going to be getting into. And we got into some pretty tight situations, and my wife always says, she goes, you just don't get excited about nothing. Well, when you've been there and done it and seen it about it, dead on many different occasions, and you don't come home and tell those stories,
yeah,
to anybody. It's a very special career. I loved it. I just loved it.
What was the most harrowing call that you can remember?
Probably, I was a battalion chief's aide for 3 years, and it was on a Sunday. And, when people were off, we moved people up in class and moved them around in different seats and stuff. And actually my chief that I was his aide, he was off, and I had this guy that was a captain on 17 Pumper. He was riding out as the chief. And anyway, so we had a storm coming in town, and it was about on a Sunday afternoon, and we catch a regular alarm at a house. And I knew this neighborhood like the back of my hand. And these are big 3-story houses. And the aerial truck they sent us had a non-working aerial. And we pulled out of the station, starting to thunder and lightning like crazy. And I told John, I said, "John," I said, we need a working truck. I said, these are big ass houses where we're going. We need to get 2 truck rolling. And John didn't do it. He would not, anytime I suggested something to him, this guy, he just, well, first of all, I don't think he really liked my driving that much. So I think he's just nervous as hell, number one, hanging on for dear life too. And I'm telling John, I said, we need to get the deuce rolling. And so we get to this house, and sure enough, we got fire coming out this attic window. And so I'm putting my gear on, and I yell at the guy that's driving the pumper. He's a firefighter from 31s. And I said, don't charge this line till I tell you, because I know you got these stairwells that are real tight on the sides of these houses. And I wanted to take a dry line up that stairwell. So here's the 7 truck comes in. I got the captain and his firefighter on 7 truck. I got the Mike Hodel, who normally drives 32s. He's on the hand line on 32s, and his firefighter, and I'm right behind him. And we get up to this top of this 3rd floor, and I mean, it is freaking hot, and you can't see a thing. And I'm just enough below the smoke where I didn't have to mask up, and I could talk on the radio. And I am screaming at John on this radio. We need to get this roof open. We got to get another truck in here and get this roof open. Well, and you get up on, guys were, trying to we finally mustered up enough to get up on his knees and poke a hole in the ceiling. And then we got in an argument about opening the line up or not, because we're going to have a ton of steam come back down on us. But it was getting bad, so you had to make a choice. And so we got Hodel talked into opening the line up, and thank God the water went over in the room that was going. And because the guys that got on the roof one of them blew their knee out, never got a hole in the roof. I can go on and on and on. This story just gets horrendously bad.
Oh.
I mean, I've never been so close to a flashover in my life.
Oh.
Okay. And I actually, and my chief was off for a couple more work days, and I finally had to get a hold of him when he got back in town. And I told him, I said, I will not work with John again. I said, I'm done. Put me off. That man's dangerous. He didn't, I tried to talk with him. He didn't do anything I asked. I said, I really felt like we were going to be done in on that one there. And we're a very aggressive department. We're a real well known for interior firefighting, and it's a lot of fun when it goes well. It sucks when it goes bad. So that's part of that adrenaline thing,
Yeah.
And those are stories you don't tell much when you get home. I didn't tell the wife that for a long time on that one.
When you accumulate so many of those stories, some worse, some not as bad, if you're not telling your wife, who are you letting this out to make sure that you don't go completely bonkers?
Well, we do it amongst ourselves in the station. Okay. That's where that kitchen table and those meals of crew getting together is extremely important. I actually had a TV crew rode with me that was doing a show. I can't remember the name of it. It was Smoke and Fire or something. They were out of Canada, and they actually rode with me. This was when after I was a battalion chief's aide, I went up and drove 7 truck. And so they spent a few hours with me on the job one day, and we actually had to run a construction death down on the plaza. And so they couldn't get over how we decompressed after a call. Okay. Because we were sitting there eating lunch, eating burgers and fries. Okay. When the call came in, and you just take a paper towel, cover your plate, you hit the rigs, and you leave. So it's about 45 minutes or so before we come back, and we get back in the station, and we're going back, and we're slopping in ketchup, and we're talking about this guy who his glasses was embedded in his head, his femur was busted, laying on and bone fragments on the sidewalk. I mean, it was just one nasty scene. He was on a elevated platform that drove off a parking garage and dropped 4 stories into a alleyway. and it was nasty. And the pumper had to go back a couple hours later and wash down after they got the scene, all secured. And but they couldn't get over how we're sitting there talking about this, and we didn't let them down there and film any of it. We made them leave their camera stuff. We did escort them down to the scene, so they got a quick look at what we were dealing with, after things were settled down. So we're back eating, and they just couldn't get over how we were decompressing and talking about it. And it's amongst us that understood, and that's the best way to decompress on these situations.
Eddie, tell me a love story. How do you and your wife meet, and how quickly are you guys like, hey, let's get married?
Wow, that's pretty interesting to say. She was a year behind me in high school, and so I knew who she was, and I was working at that service station, and she was actually dating a guy that was in my class. And she come by and so I just kind of casual, hi, how you doing and stuff. But then we all went over to Kansas because you could drink at 18 in Kansas. So Kansas City, Missouri is on the line of Kansas. So you had Kansas City, Kansas, and Overland Park, and then you got the Missouri side. So we'd all run over to the Kansas side, and then there was disco clubs and stuff like that over there. So went to Pogo's over there on the Kansas side and run into her there at that place. And everybody, a lot of people we knew. And so we got to seeing each other, and then we started dating. And I don't know, I think she was, it just kind of became, 6-8 months later, I thought, this would be a great lifestyle, and what a great girl. And seemed like her family, and she had her head on fairly straight, and so we, of course, we're Catholic, I am, and you have to go through those classes, and so we go through these marriage classes, and this priest that's there, Frank Tierney was his name, and he told us we weren't compatible. So 44 years later, we're still not compatible, I guess.
Yeah, right. Wow. What year? Yeah. What time frame are we looking at year wise?
That was 1979.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a different world kind of back then, but we were party central at our house for a while. And all my buddies and friends, and I was hanging out at the dirt track and racing with them. And I mean, it was, like I said, it was quite an ordeal.
Is that where you get the nickname Fast Eddie, through dirt track racing?
No, more for on the streets. My buddy Dave Osborne hung that on me. And that I had this Chevy pickup that was pretty quick. And like I said, I mean, I was a nuisance to humanity with that truck. I mean, there was nothing I would do, and I stayed out of, believe it or not, I didn't get any tickets to speak of. I didn't get any tickets after I got on the fire department. And then they caught me running about 140 down the highway one Sunday morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
When do you have kids?
It was about 4 years after we were married. It was like, something was missing in our relationship. And we figured out it was probably time to start having children. So we had a boy, and Brandon's his name. And he ruined it for everybody else because that was it. That kid was a handful, man. There's more stories. I first said he was going to be about 30 before he really got it in life. And I was wrong. It was about 37. But he just turned 40.
When you're now a parent and you look back at how your dad is parenting you, I would assume situations are a little different. What do you take from your dad, and then what did you have in your mind that if you were ever going to be a dad, like things that you would do different?
You know, that's a tough question because me and my dad don't get along. Okay, I'm gonna we are on the outs,
Oh,
and there's
was that a long time?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And it happened over my son, and he was about 14 years old at 15 years old, 14 or 15 at that time when all this shakeup happened. And so me and the family had a split over, and it was over my parenting with my son. And he never had to deal with a child that had, you know, to be on Ritalin and all kinds of medication and all those things. And so, you know, I'm not going to rag on my dad here, you know, but we just, I really could do it, you know, but
Sure.
it's not worth it, you know, and but we're oil and water between me and him.
Holding your son aside then, as you look back at that, I mean, that's 26 years or, you know, whatever it is. If that was, you know, 14, 15, you said he's just 40 now. So you're looking at quarter century of that.
Yeah.
Is that a big regret of your life that somehow you guys weren't able to patch it up, or he decided to take it a certain way that caused you to react the way you did?
Well, I spent, gosh, close to a year trying to keep that relationship together after we started having a problem. And it started affecting me in my family. It started affecting me in my work, all that stuff. And I said, you know, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. And I said, it's time for me to have to go on and turn the page on this. Otherwise, I'm not going to let this affect my life. And to this day, I think I'm 1,000% better for it. There was some, because I had already started my business, you know, at that time, and I actually, my brother tried to get in the middle of my business with another guy. That's, people know who he is in the barbecue community. And Traeger's actually, their lawyer had to write some letters and, you know, about cease and desist about things. So it really got kind of ugly about it. And we just, we're not going to, I was doing things the way you should do them. And they were trying to skirt around some laws. And it just never patched things up.
You're known for being the pellet guy. Where does barbecue even weave into your life, Eddie?
Fire department was a big part of that. Okay. Because about the time we built this smoker for this guy, that was about a year before I got on the fire department. And then I said, you know, that looked like fun. I think I can throw me one of those things together, because after we built this smoker, I watched him go test it with 50 slabs of ribs, and they had a nice party. I'm going, that looked like a hell of a good time, you know? And we were working in kitchens at the time in Kansas City. We were doing a stainless steel and kitchen work. I was working on my days off with my dad with his business and shop. And this is how I learned how the commercial smokers were built, because we were in and out of the restaurants and barbecue places. And I worked on a bunch of J&R Oilers, not a lot of Southern Prides or Old Hickories. I had, you know, messed with them slightly, but we worked on almost all the Oilers in Kansas City back in that day. So that's where my experience came from, understanding how, and my passion for the commercial world was there. And of course, when I seen the pellet grill and I said, this solves everything in barbecue. And anyway, that's why, Traeger's didn't know what to do with me, because I really wanted to be, I tried to mess around with the grills. They were freaking awful. I mean, they're just horrible.
Now, look, I think it's important now that we're at this stage of the Ed Maurin origin story. Like when you say the Traegers, so you're talking about the actual Traegers, like the people that founded this isn't the Traeger as we know it today, the corporate publicly traded blah blah blah.
No. This is the family.
This is the
family.
Traegers.
Yeah, this is the family. Great people. Okay, I mean, they're as far as people goes, wonderful. They're very wonderful folks. But the equipment, I mean, I can't. The first cooker I got to play with, I mean, I caught it. It left it out in the rain. It got wet and clogged up the auger. It caught fire all the time. The thing was, it had the pan, the drip pan was welded in it, and so there was no drip pan. It was a pan that had lava rock in it. Okay, and that made a grease trap. And I mean, this thing, the way it was, they tried to mimic a gas grill is what they were trying to do. And of course, that's not the way we cook here in Kansas City. We cook. I was, already in competition barbecue. My first competition was with that neighbor I was talking about. We were under Dude's Barbecue, and that was in 1986. So now I'm in 1990. I'm 4 years later, and in my life and understanding, offset cooking and competition cooking and all. But one thing I did understand, that these pellet things are going to be something, because it solved all the problems in solid fuel, is what the pellets did. It's just the form this thing was in was hideous, and it needed. And of course, remember, I'm working on commercial stuff, and I'm going, man, and that's in 93. That's when I put together my OG FE 100 in 1993 myself. And so I'm cooking. I'm the bad guy in the neighborhood in Kansas City. I mean, nobody liked me at all, because I'm cooking on these pellet things, and people are hating the pellets. I mean, that was, you think there's a love-hate relationship out there now. It was real bad back in the day. I was a guy you don't want to go talk and associate with, and other cooks weren't very, very chummy with me. And, it was an interesting time back in those days.
When do you make pit building a business? Or perhaps a better question would be, when are people starting to approach you? You've already bought in. You knew that this was going to be the way to go. You're going to start to make whatever format the Traeger was into something that worked better for you. But I would imagine you are onto something when people start to approach you and say, Eddie, make me one of these, or how can I get a pellet cooker too?
Yeah, that was going on a lot, especially when you start winning a lot of stuff, and you got the one-off nobody else has. I'm trying to think. It was probably 90. I bought my own first build. I bought my building that I made my shop in 1997. I went and got a home equity loan, and my dad I was working with him on my days off, but he was driving me crazy, because he was wanting to do smaller projects, didn't want to do any bigger stuff. And I was tired of going down there and sitting around looking at him. Some days it was busy, some days you weren't. So he's great at doing repair. I wanted to manufacture things. And so 97 is when I bought my old fire station. And then I was able to do the big stuff that Shear Truck Company and Knapheide and those people were wanting done. And man, I tell you what, it was game on. When I bought that building, I was going balls to the wall. So but not in barbecue.
Yeah.
I was doing custom fabricating work. Okay. In 98's when I built the first cooker for sale, when I was, getting pressured to people wanting what I had. And so it was 1998 when that happened.
Is that the FE cooker?
Yeah, it was the FE, and I called it the 100.
Yep.
And reason why is because it was based on a Traeger 100. I used that as a base. So I had a friend who they were a distributor for Traeger, and I'd cut them up and remanufacture them. So I took a $500 grill and I made it into a $2,700 cooker. Is what I did. I was like Carroll Shelby was with Ford.
And weren't you?
And they didn't know what to do with me.
You were paying Traeger a royalty too for every cooker too, right?
No, first I was buying pits. Okay, I was buying grills, and then after that, then I talked to Randy. I said, "Look, can you sell these to me without all the paint and all the parts and stuff I'm throwing away?" And well, yeah, I can do that. I said that'll save me a whole lot of time and effort. And so that went on for a little bit, and then it was like, well, how about just a royalty? And he said, yeah, we can do that too. So then we worked on a royalty kind of thing, and instead of the other way, it saved a whole bunch of shipping and making stuff from scratch too. So it was an evolution in starting it and how it all went together. But learning all the attributes about it it's still a learning process to today. I mean, just like this article, I still learning about different things and the aspects of the pellet world, pellet cooking world, pellet equipment, how it's designed, what it does, airflow. I mean, you never, ever, ever, we're still not to where we're great, but I mean, I still think there's always, we're getting ready we're testing other industries with this now.
If you look back, I mentioned it in the first hour, the biggest names in competition barbecue were using the FE cooker, whether they wanted to admit it or not. I have Darren Worth on tape from a Best Moments of 2 weeks ago from back in 2009, I think it was, where he said that he was using a pair of Weber Smoky Mountains and he had an FE cooker. This is what many consider to be the greatest competition cook, at least in KCBS, if not of all time across all sanctioning bodies, saying that he had an FE cooker. Maybe he doesn't use one now, but he had one. Many folks had an FE cooker. When did you realize that the FE cooker was really going to start to take the world by storm?
2000, probably when my second year with Cook Shack. In 2002, November 2002, Cook Shack started manufacturing for me.
Because it was too big of a project for you, right? Like you wanted to get into some serious quantity.
I had some job shops around town that were making parts and pieces for me. Okay. And so I was having stuff done out, but my whole goal, remember, my life's in commercial and listings. I want listings. I wanted to be UL listed. I wanted to be NSF listed. I wanted to be a real player in the commercial industry. That was my whole direction. And but I was needing manufacturing, and I had a mutual friend that knew Stuart Powell from Cook Shack, and he called Stuart for me, and I took a cooker down to him. Now, we'd seen each other at some trade shows. I mean, I was even at the point at that time I had big, rotisseries I was doing myself, and I would see these guys, and I got to know them at trade shows. And so he says, if you make a couple changes on it, we'll manufacture for you. And every month I was on a monthly build schedule, and I was out selling what they were building. And in 2004, I got the phone call. Look, we want to get more involved with you. So I worked a marketing and manufacturing agreement with them, and we still have one to today. And it's been a wonderful marriage between the two of us. It's been fantastic. And reason why I've been gone the last 3 days, we were doing rep training, and I had reps from Europe and South America and all down there. And we were doing training, and it's so much fun. It's just I'm having the time of my life, actually.
How have the cookers that you've created evolved over the last 15 years?
We're just now doing an upgrade on the rotisseries, and I think we've developed some airflow that actually Southern Pride copied us, which is great. I mean, that's it's pretty cool when your competitors on our cabinet smoker, and now we've integrating some of that airflow design into the rotisserie, and it's and then it controls, the Fireboard guys were hooked up with Burnt Finger at the Royal.
Yep.
And you can go to their website and you can see they've got a tracker that they did on my FEC 500 when they were cooking for their party down there. And Megan tells me, says they couldn't get over how the overnight cook on that was a flat line. They'd never seen such a thing on an automated pit of being just a frickin' flat line, no up or down till the doors were opened. And he said it was just a flat line, and they're,
Wow.
They couldn't get over how that was. And it's fun to innovate, and I just can't tell you. And I can't speak of what's coming down the pipe, but I'm really jonesing for our next step in what we're going to do. And pizza's great. I mean, I have a pizza unit too now. I love the pizza stuff, but I think we're getting ready to really make some change. And also too, thank God, and you had this discussion a little bit. We're getting ready to do a whole lot more marketing. People don't even really realize who we are anymore. So we're getting ready to make that change. Hopefully here, we're going to do some stuff different.
Are you concerned or continually trying to effort at leaving a specific legacy?
I'll let that handle itself. I ain't concerned about it. I'll tell you what, legacy, the off-road racing, I did this as a kid, and going back to off-road racing for me was a personal, very, very personal. I felt like that was part of my life. In 1983, I had to hang on the shelf, and because I was good, I was very good at it. And man, when I went back at it in 2009, and and getting my feet back under me with it, and then I've won a lot of stuff in off-road racing too, and I've done real well for a guy from the Midwest.
Are you more successful at barbecue pit making or off-road racing?
I'll definitely barbecue pit making. The off-road world's huge. I mean,
yeah.
There's different segments of it. I've got to set in some of the top-notch cars and got to drive some of them. But that saying about when you're going to bury, I want to go sliding in that box sideways. Okay, I mean that. To me, that's that adrenaline junkie. There's nothing there. It's hard to explain. It's a drug. Okay. It's the junkie drug. And I love it. So, but my body's about done. So I'm coming back, and I'm going to start paying a whole lot more attention to the things in barbecue that I'm so glad I got to go do that before I got too old. Okay. And you have to be self-funded to be able to do it too. It's not, there's not money out there to come do it. All these guys that I race against, a lot of them, they're all millionaires and some billionaires too. And you're out there banging wheels with big guys.
Wow. Do you have a race coming up?
I just entered the NORA 1000, which will be coming up at the end of April. I've won that race twice in the Challenger era. And So I don't know exactly which vehicle or what we're going to run down there yet, because I'm involved with a guy out of Kansas City, Bueller Motorsports. He's got a trophy truck. He's got a new pre-runner. I've got a new Robbie Gordon car supposed to show up any day. It's a Speed UTV. That is the top of the line UTV that's out on the marketplace, and I may run it in the stock class, possibly. So that's yet to be determined. But I did enter. It's a 1,300-mile race on 6-day format.
Wow. Eddie, you have said it all. If you didn't know Ed Maurin before, you've gotten the start to finish, or the start to where we are now, not a finish, of course, because he's obviously very active. Going to be getting more into the barbecue side again. But wow, I mean, I thought I knew a lot about you, but you've revealed a number of things here that perhaps a lot of folks that know you maybe didn't know. So I appreciate your openness, your willingness to share. And really, when a guest like you, an icon in the industry, is going to come in here and be completely vulnerable and talk about all the things that you did, this is what makes the origin stories of the guest Hall of Fame members so popular, to get such a real interview and get all this extra insight that people didn't know. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this tonight. But more importantly than that, since 2007, you're really one of the oldest folks that continue to recur on the show and give takes on the industry. And it's been a true pleasure knowing you all these years and being able to stay in touch. You know, I can't thank you enough, and I appreciate everything you've ever done for me and the show. Well, I really appreciate you saying that, Greg. And you're like I said, you've set a mark out there for barbecue podcasts. That's for damn sure. And then I love your passion, and keep it up. And I look forward, to have some more conversations with you, because there's a whole lot of holes in that story I gave you. But also our development stuff, I'll keep you abreast when we go to announce something, coming up, because the new stuff I'm thinking about and we're working on, even going through my mind just sends chills up my back what we possibly could do. So, and that's the way I used to be in barbecue back when I was thinking about being commercial, and before Cook Shack hooked up. It keep me up at night thinking about what it would do to the industry. And what I think we can do to this other industry, I think is more, could morph what we're doing today. So I'm looking forward to it. You keep me in the loop. We'll have you back on. Absolutely. All right. Thanks for everything, Greg. All right. Thanks, Eddie. Take care. Fast Eddie right there, legend. 2023 Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer. And if you didn't know anything about him, you know a lot more about him. And if you knew him cursorily, you certainly have a better understanding of where he came from, what he's been through, and how, of course, he's gotten to where he is today, both from a live fire sense, barbecue, pit building, and all that. And who knew he was such an accomplished racer? Yeah, how about that? Right, so we are over into the second hour, but no problems there. We're going to play a little catch-up here. Glad to see through the instant chat for the folks that hung with me tonight, how much you enjoyed it, getting to know this. A lot of people being able to run a similar life experience as Eddie regaled us with here this evening. Before we go, we talk to you about Franklin's Barbecue Pits. What do you need to know about Franklin's Barbecue Pits? They're on sale, or, as we say in the business, on promotion. Franklin has never had a sale, may never do it again. So get in on this action right now if you want to save $400 between now and 3 weeks from now, which is the end of the year. You go to the Franklin Barbecue website, franklinbbqpits.com, or you go to a certified Franklin Barbecue Pit dealer, and you say, hook me up with the Barbecue Central Show promotion. I want 400 schmackers off that sexy iron and steel grill. Please. Immediately, if not sooner. Again, $400 off if you go to franklinbbqpit.com, the website, or if you go to a certified dealer near you. Doesn't matter, online or in person, $400 off. Primarily made of 5/16 and quarter-inch thick American-made steel. Anything that sees heat, engineered to be incredibly solid and should last at least 100 years or more if cared for properly. The thickness of the steel guarantees professional-grade heat retention, which is a critical component to making great barbecue, all things that we know. And of course, these are made to be somewhat of a replica or a new styling off of the legendary pits that he has in his restaurants. You get to see the patina, you get to see the way he wants the craftsmanship to be shown, welds, get your own numbered nameplate, all that stuff. Yeah. Again, $400 off. Doesn't get any better than that, doesn't get any cheaper than that for a Franklin Barbecue Pit. As we near the end of the year, you only have between now and the end of the year to take advantage of $400. Again, do it online, franklinbbqpits.com, or to certified dealer. Tell them you want the $400 off the retail discount. Let's go. We're back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back, and we thank Ed Maurin for joining us last segment. Pelletcooker.com is his website, actually. Meant to mention that when we were talking to him. This portion of the show being brought to you by Aladino. I am a huge fan, of course, of Aladino. JRE Tobacco is the place that's growing all these great tobaccos. I've been doling out the Aladino Classic for sampling. We have a new month, of course, in December, so I'll be getting a new box of cigars from Aladino. So if you want to get in on it early, if you're like, hey, I'm a big fan of JRE, love the Aladino line, doesn't matter, whatever they're going to send you, I know I want to try them. Shoot me an email now. We'll start building the queue, and then as soon as I get the new box, I'll send you out a pair. I say always best to smoke a cigar twice so you can make your decision on if you like it or not. Maybe you got a bum run. Maybe they're not holding it right. Who knows? But know this. A, you're getting them directly from the manufacturer. They're coming to me. I have a properly running humidor, great environment. So by the time you get them, they're going to be wonderful. And then you can tell me how much you like them or not. I'm trying blends made with Corojo and Habano right now with the classics, but you know I love the Reservas, and you can find out more about all of their products, jretobacco.com, to find a retailer near you. And again, if you want to get in line early on the samples for the new cigars this month from Aladino, JRE Tobacco, shoot me an email, subject line JRE Tobacco. And then we'll make sure that once the new box hits, we'll start sending them out to you so you can try them on. Why not? Sounds great. All right, let's go ahead and get out of here all the way back in the first hour. We had a joint segment. How great was that, by the way? We don't want Eddie's segment to overshadow the rest of the show, although hard not to. Malcom Reed and Heath Riles in the same segment, talking about everything that's happening in the city of Memphis as we come up to Memphis and May this year. Not this year, 2024. If you missed it, podcast tomorrow, Wednesday, so you can catch up very quickly there. After Malcom and Heath, Mike Lang showed up for his last quarterly appearance in 2023. He told me he's in for 2024 for quarterly appearances, so we're looking forward to that already. And then the second hour, all Fast Eddie, all the time, the origin story of Ed Maurin. Pelletcooker.com, his website. That podcast second hour will be out on Thursday. Don't forget the best of this coming Friday has John Marcus. Big show planned for you next week. We have another origin story. Tim Shear, the origin story of collegiate basketball player, tallest man in barbecue, blues hog, gateway drum smokers, Marble Ridge, beef and pork farms. It's going to be a great origin story. 2 weeks, plus Meathead, plus Robert Moss. Sounds great. How do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Bye-bye.
It's Sam the Cooking Guy, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Some call him a fool, some even call him a douchebag. But I say Greg Rempe is the greatest thing to happen to barbecue since cavemen.